This time last year, in spellbinding Istanbul, the Bosphorus Cup unfolded in 4 glorious days, full of racing action. There were offshore races, there were inshore races, and there was also the world-famous Bosphorus Straight Race. Can you have too much of a good thing? A series of exciting races surrounded by stunning scenery. A winner emerged in the end. It was Proveza 5. American Express Bosphorus Cup is the most prestigious sailing event in Turkey, taking place in Istanbul, the largest city of the country. With a population of 13.4 million, Istanbul is a transcontinental city with its historic center partially listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Bosphorus Cup is a unique sailing event, combining inshore races and the world-famous Bosphorus Strait Race. But what is this race all about? The participants of the event sail each year an inshore race inside the channel, starting from the Dolmabahce Palace and sailing across the first bridge in front of thousands of tourists and people on both borders. This race is really competitive, as it is not only the strong currents that the sailors should face, the wind is very shifty and gusty all over the race course. Such demanding racing conditions cannot be found elsewhere. Among the top names participating in this event, we find Kia Lukunku with Orhan Tuker on the helm, a very experienced crew participating in several international yachting events. Would they make it this year? Goblin 3 is a really competitive team as well. Having changed their boat from previous year, they seem to be decisive to win the trophy and the ticket to Porto Cervo, the prize for the winner of the Bosphorus Cup. However, it is not the IRC-1 boats that could claim the victory. IRC-2 teams are competitive, and Turkcell Alize is one of the top among the fleet. Sinan Sumer has been performing well in the previous editions and will try his best to beat his rivals. Among the top, we will see for sure Orion, a Mach 12 boat that nobody should underestimate. It can perform very well in light and strong winds and get a position on the podium. The same for Fenerbahce 1. Ogus Ayan wants to perform better than the previous year, and having changed his boat can help him a lot. A lot is at stake these 3 days, with many more boats near the podium, especially under the light wind conditions that finally prevailed during the event. The time has come. The American Express Bosphorus Cup 2012 is about to begin. The air of expectation was palpable at the skipper's briefing on Wednesday afternoon. They are all here for this beautifully designed trophy. All the favorites are here, of course. Among them, Levent Penerci and Sinan Sumir.
Well, last year I was racing with Proveza 5 and I won the regatta. It was a very competitive race with the Orient Express. This year I'll be racing with Mach 10 Comet. So I think it will be a tough regatta for us.
Last year we raced in IRC 3 class and we finished second. This year in IRC 2 class there is five one design same boat. There is 2 boats in this class which is favorite, I think. The Comet, they won this regatta 2 or 3 years ago. Also the Matrak is a good team. I think that the winner of this whole regatta can be from the IRC 2 class.
A day before the event, and the boats taking part in this year's cup gathered in the Kalamis Marina. The athletes readying themselves to open sail in the waters of the Bosphorus. The 2012 fleet is expected to be very competitive. New and enthusiastic participants will race along the most experienced veterans of the race. Among them, Blue Moon, Alize, Goblin, and many others. As it happens in all major events, one day before the races begin, time for the practice race. An opportunity for the teams to warm up and get ready. Since no points are counted, they can tune their boats and trim their sails. Being fast is of utmost importance as they all know it. At the same time, they did not miss the chance to enjoy sailing into this wonderful scenery. The cloudy weather of Istanbul finally brought no rain, and the light breeze was enough for the teams to sail. Among them, Komet and Izmir Yelkin, both racing in IRC2 and likely to win. However, there might be some fierce battles in their category with Matrak and Turkcell Alize, as well as with Orient Express, Orion, FS Alize, and many others for the overall ranking. First day of summer and of races for the American Express Bosphorus Cup. A day with extremely light winds.
Hope will be very good. I hope I will be very good because the weather reports are not so good for Friday and Sunday. But the best important thing is we will be on sea, on board. If we can find any wind, we will sail. If not, we will enjoy. I hope it.
The day begins with preparing the boats. This is especially important on the first day. The inshore race is taking place today, and at 1100, the athletes left the port and headed for the race course. But no wind whatsoever. A wonderfully sunny day such as this is perhaps the best time for this to happen. The athletes were enjoying themselves while waiting. And it wasn't long before the wind picked up. The light breeze signaled the first start for the IRC 1, 2, and 3 categories. The IRC 4 and the Destek boats would start somewhat later. The race was going to be a tough one, especially with such a light wind and difficult overall weather conditions. Among the boats leading the IRC1 race, we also find Orion, who performed excellently on the upwind, so they were now ahead of the others. Some gusts at this stage helped increase wind speed. There were some closely fought battles during the first upwind, and for those who had chosen the center and right side of the course, this meant gaining a few meters. Orient Express 6 was the fastest boat, however, but this doesn't mean they can relax. And they're well aware of that. Meanwhile, in the IRC2 category, Eker Yayik Ayran and Izmir Yelkin were in the lead, with Sinan Sumer's Turkcell Alize boat far behind them. Same for Komet, that was hard on their heels, just a few meters behind. At this point, the wind once again died today. So, the race committee decided to shorten the IRC4 and Destek category races. The first 3 IRC categories would be sailing a second loop, however. It was now time for Komet to attack. Even if the Turkcell Alize boat was blocking their wind, there was still downwind before the end of the race. And both of them were too close to Eker Yayik Ayran. In the front, the Orion and Goblin boats were really battling it out. Fierce racing moves and a clever one by Aydin Yildirim, who finally won the race. At the same time, Kia Lukumku came third, while Izmir Yelkin won the IRC2 race, and Yadif Yelkin won the IRC3 race. Let's hear some words from Orhan Tuker on how the race unfolded today.
The race was difficult, of course, a bit few patches around, wind shifts around, but you know, it's a kind of series races. Then I think we did a fourth overall, which is good.
Immediately after the race, the wind abated. Time for some relaxing while waiting for the breeze. Finally, the weather did not change until the end. One of the most unique races in the world of sailing was to take place today. In summary, Istanbul. Starting from the Dolmabahce Palace, then passing under the first Bosphorus Bridge. Proceeding towards the Rumeli Hisari Castle and Kuzuksku Kasri, before finishing at the Siragan Kempinski Palace after a fast loop. This is the world-famous Bosphorus Strait Race. The athletes arrived early morning at the racecourse. They had to trim and set after all. This certainly is not a race to be taken lightly. Perfect coordination is very much needed here. Today's scene brings to mind a washing machine, shifting currents, and such big waves. It won't be easy. The start of the race found the Turkcell Alize boat on top. A wonderful start to a spectacular sailing event with all boats sailing downwind, their colorful spinnakers peppering the Bosphorus Strait. A few minutes later on, an Orient Express 6 was passing into the first bridge, greatly helped by a strong gust in covering good distance. The rest of the boats were riding those waves. They're spread all over the place as they cross the bridge, right in front of the Reina Club. Lots of spectators enjoying the race there, invited by sponsors of the Bosphorus Cup, American Express. Leading the pack were Kia Lukumku and Turkcell Alize at this point, closing in on the shore. The current was even more helpful to their cause this way. A few meters behind, we encounter Hedef Yelkin, who alongside the Aquara and FB1 Garanti boat were now giving it all they had. A little further back, there was the FS Alize, now passing right in front of Galatasaray Island. At the same time, some very strong battles between Comet and Orion boats. And yet, it wasn't such a great overall performance for Orion today. Meanwhile, Orient Express had already rounded the first mark and was now passing by Rumeli Hisari Castle. At the same time, FB1 and Kia Lukumku were sailing the shift. But could they beat Kia Lukumku? Goblin 3 was also a part of this struggle. This made for one successful three-way battle today. The rest of the boats encountered serious difficulties with the current while rounding. In the IRC3 race, on the other hand, Sake and Hedef Yelkin were the two now leading the fleet. And after a really fast loop, the boats were now heading toward the finish line, right in front of the glorious Kempinski Palace. Stunning images here, as gusts were reaching 15 knots and the boats smashing into the waves of the Bosphorus. Intense battles today in all the IRC categories, as well as in the one for the Destec boats.
I've raced in many regattas around the world, and in terms of location and the competitiveness, this is by far the best I've ever raced in. I mean, Istanbul is a great place. To be able to sail with two continents, one continent either side of you, is an incredible.
The top boats taking part are still in contention for the finale, winning and landing the prestigious trophy. There's still one day to go. The last day of the American Express Bosphorus Cup would be a difficult one for the athletes. 0 wins almost all day in Istanbul. This left the race committee with no other option but to postpone the race for later in the day. For some, the sense of anticipation was only increasing.
We are at the second place right now. We were at the first place Friday. There is a light wind today, and this boat is have very good performance in light wind. We have chance to get the first place.
There was still no wind after hours and hours, and so it was more obvious by now that teams and athletes couldn't just wait idly, doing nothing. Staying alert is very important. So they would trim and tune to the extremely light wind conditions. The favorites too? Among them, Kieref Yelkin, Goblin 3, and Saki.
If the wind is too light, there is an advantage for Goblin because it's a lightweight boat and can go very fast on light winds. She have also an advantage on light wind than heavy.
The day's first race had a really crowded start at the committee boat side particularly. Comet had a late start, and Turkcell Alize did even worse. There was, however, a significant shift in the wind, so the race was finally abandoned. And when the second start was given, the boats were spread all over the starting line. Enjoying some great speeds at the pin end were Matrak and Egher Ayi Ayran. Fenerbahce won and 7 Bella crashed. Very bad news for both teams. Both boats sustained damages. Immediately after the start of the Destech and the IRC4 races, Korea Zigzag and Backup started on top. Arapupa Adrenaline wasn't doing that well at this early stage. And the same could be said for Bosch Blue Moon. Let's return to the IRC categories 1, 2, and 3. Here, Akura was the boat leading the race. And then the wind started abating. Who would win at the end? It's really tough to predict. A few minutes later, it would be an excellent rounding for both Avea and Akura that kept leading the fleet. Goblin was third and thus close to victory in the overall ranking. And the ticket to Porto Cervo, of course. A constellation of colorful spinnakers from the rest of the boats on a sunny Sunday afternoon. After a really fast upwind, Avea was now rounding in front of Goblin 3 and Akura. Behind them, it's Kia Lukunku and Turkcell Alize. In the end, however, victory belonged to Goblin 3. They must be congratulated on their skills and tenacity. So, with the Bosphorus Cup now finally over, let's have a look at the results overall. Turkcell Alize finally beat Comet in the IRC2. In the IRC3, there was a tie between the top 3, but it was finally a Meta XS the one to win. Strong battles for IRC4 and Destech, as well with the young guns from Boğaziçi University coming second at the end. The American Express Bosphorus Cup came to an end with a glorious ceremony at the wonderful Galatasaray Island. All were there, sailors and sponsors, and they were all excited.
And this year was a great success because the people, they start to like more and more the Bosphorus Cup and the sailing, and this is the only place in the world you can see the sailing very near from the coast, and you can be next to racer.
Bosphorus Cup is the first of a series of sailing events of the American Express in Turkey.
So we have beautiful places like this in the southern parts of Turkey, and one of them is Bodrum, one of them is in Göcek, and one of them is in Didim. So we're going to have 3 races there, and they're going to be with us. And AMEX team, they come and also sail and attend to the race. So they are really very excited because they are themselves in the race.
So it was time for the winners to receive their trophies. Goblin 3 scored 2 bullets, and this was enough to bring them on top. It has been 4 days of action, 4 days of sailing in the waters of Istanbul. Everybody enjoyed it, and they all definitely want to come in the next year's edition. Sailing in Bosphorus is unique, and everybody will remember it.